Hello, welcome, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Bialetti Chicca, a 3-cup mocha pot with the adorable little teapot on top, which I'm sure is why you're looking at it. Now, I want to make it very clear that I am not a coffee expert. I am not one of those people who can smell a can of coffee and tell you whether or not it was picked the day after a full moon. But I am a girl who just likes her morning coffee and watched her dad use mocha pots her whole life. So, what makes this one different than all the other coffee pots out there made by Bialetti? Well, obviously, the adorable teapot, but we're going to get to that. So, let me compare it to a regular 3-cup mocha pot. It's pretty much the same in size and function, but there are a few differences, which I'll go over right now. So, you can see from the bottom that the size and dimensions are a little bit different, but I assure you that it holds the same amount of water, which is about 150 milliliters. The most obvious difference in internal hardware is the funnel itself. The one for the kik-ka is on the right, the one for the regular moka pot is on the left. They are not interchangeable despite holding the same amount of coffee, so keep that in mind when it comes to replacing hardware. In fact, here's what happens when I put the regular funnel into the kik-ka. It just doesn't work. At first glance, it appears that the rubber used for the kik-ka's gasket is slightly different than the one that comes with the standard 3-cup mocha pot, but I don't think that when the time comes to replace the kik-ka's gasket that I'm going to have any issues whatsoever using a regular one. I don't think I have to tell you what makes the top portion different on the kik-ka than the regular 3-cup mocha pot. It's the reason we're all here. It's this adorable little teapot. I couldn't find on Bialetti's site or on any other site what it's made out of, whether or not it's porcelain or ceramic. I'm definitely not an expert at that. It's all white, and there's nothing fancy that keeps the lid on, so keep that in mind when you're opening the package or just using it in general. If you're prone to breaking delicate things, this might be a deciding factor for you. There are already a lot of resources out there when it comes to brewing with a moka pot, so I'm not going to go into too much detail aside from some general recommendations. You never want to fill water higher than that little valve that you see on the inside at the very top. When it comes to the coffee itself, you can choose whatever you want. It's the grind size that's more important than anything else. Despite what Bialetti says or what anyone else on the internet says, moka pots are not true espresso makers. So choose a coarser grind. In fact, this can indicates that it's for moka pots, and I recommend that if you're just starting out. If you like to grind your own beans, just make sure that it's coarser than an espresso grind. When it comes to your funnel filling technique, you want to keep in mind again that this is not true espresso. That means you do not want to be tamping down your grinds or packing them in as densely as possible. So this is the move that my dad always made with his moka pot, this gentle tapping across the top with the edge of the spoon. This allows you to level out the grinds so that you can add more, but also make sure that you're not packing them in too tightly. So you're going to keep on doing this all the way up to the top. Some people like to do the mound on top. I'm not one of those people, but hey, it's up to you. And of course, when you get to the top, after making a mess like me, you're going to want to make sure that you clean off the edges with your finger or a towel. If you don't do this, you risk water escaping from the pot as it's brewing, and that's just not good. The time has come for the most crucial step for the success of the kik-ka, and that is tightening it. Now, all moka pots need to be tightened well, we know that, but this one in particular I find is prone to leaking if it's not screwed in as tightly as possible. So when you think you've screwed it tightly, keep going because you really don't want it to leak. On to the brewing, and yes, I have an electric stove. I hate it too. For me, this setting just past medium is the one that works for me, but you're gonna have to figure out what works for you on your own stove. If you're using a gas stove, you want to make absolutely certain, again, with all moka pots, that the flame does not go around the base of the pot. It needs to be smaller, and you don't want to use very high heat. Not the lowest heat, but definitely not the highest heat at all. So for me, I have a special consideration with the electric stove. I have to make sure that the handles of both the pot and the little teapot are not over the heat so that I don't burn myself. That rubber on the side on the left really is not enough to protect you from the heat. Another tip I can give you with the kik-ka is to make sure that the teapot is as much to the left as possible in my case, so that the spout pours directly into the teapot. I find that the kik-ka kind of leaks if you are not careful about that, so take the time to position it properly. And then after that, all there is to do is wait. Everyone's different, but at least in my kitchen on my stove, I like my brew times to be just under 5 minutes. Nothing too long, nothing too short. It's different for everyone. The first time seeing that coffee come out when you get this pot home is so, so fun. And it is fun every time to wait for that. The only thing is, you want to put the lid on pretty quickly after you start to see the coffee, because once it starts to gurgle as it nears the end of the brew time, it will get messy. So put that lid on. That gurgling sound means that your coffee is pretty much ready. However, I recommend with the kik-ka that you wait for that gurgling sound to stop before you take the teapot off of the base. Otherwise, you will splatter it everywhere and potentially burn yourself, and nobody wants that. Upon brewing completion, turn off the heat and very carefully, with pot holders, especially if you're using an electric stove like me, remove the kik-ka from the burner. And then, just like any other moka pot coffee, it is ready to serve and drink. You might still need the pot holders because that teapot can retain some heat, and I know that very well because my little fingers were burning off when I was keeping that lid on right there. So be safe, guys. So, is the kik-ka right for you? It has its quirks with brewing, that's for sure, but once you learn them, I think it makes an adorable addition to an existing moka pot collection. And if you know you like moka pot coffee, then why not? I hope this video was helpful. Have a great day, everyone.